Hare Krishna. So firstly, I would like to seek the blessings of all Srila Prabhupada disciples here, Shri Guru Charan Mataji and Kulangana Mataji, and all the senior devotees assembled here. So I could say a few words on this particular verse that we are discussing this morning. So, herein we find, continuing with this particular chapter, Hiranyakashipu has performed extreme degree of austerities, and now the fulfillment of his austerities is coming to be. Lord Brahma comes on his swan carrier, Hamsavaham, as it's mentioned here. He comes on his bright white swan carrier, and simply seeing this, Hiranyakashipu is exhilarated and excited because the fulfillment of all of his desires is now about to come to be true. It's very interesting. Hamsavaham, Lord Brahma's carrier is Hamsa, or a swan, and I'm just coming back from Germany, and the most famous German airline is Lufthansa, and the devotees there were telling me just 2 days back that in German, Luft is air and Hamsa is a swan, even in German. And therefore Lufthansa Airlines means a swan carrier in the air. The only problem is the pilot is not Lord Brahma. Otherwise Lufthansa literally means swan carrier in the air. Lufthansa. And Sanskrit is an amazing language where all of these different German and Lithuanian and so many languages have so many Sanskrit words there. I came also from Lithuania, and in Lithuania there are so many Sanskrit words for the particular words they use. One of our devotees was known Arunas. A man is called, every man has us at the end of his name. And I think ladies have us or something, us and us, So Arunas, Arun is the sun. And from Aruna is Arunas, And feet is called Padas. From Pada, feet, Padas. For eyes is called Ankhas. Of course, Ankh in Hindi is eyes. But Ankhas is eyes. And it's incredible how many words in German and Lithuanian and all these European languages are derived from Sanskrit. Here, Lord Brahma is coming on Lufthansa, on his Hamsa carrier, his swan carrier, to see Hiranyakashipu. And the fulfillment of all of his desires, obviously, is here now. Brahma will bless him with whatever he wants, will fulfill all of his desires and offer him benedictions. And I think it's such a common thing that anytime a person engages in something and the fulfillment of all of that endeavor and that effort is about to come, one is exhilarated. Hiranyakashipu has endured severe austerities and penances for a long time, and now Lord Brahma comes and Hiranyakashipu is very happy and excited. So also for a devotee, the fulfillment of a devotee's struggles and endeavoring so many difficulties in life comes ultimately in the form of a reward when one goes back home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world, and that's a very exhilarating experience. Titikshava Karunika Prabhu, the famous singer, from America, he wrote a very beautiful English poem, and he sung it, and it's such a hope-giving poem. He said, one fine day we'll be back home. Till that day we carry on and keep our faith where it belongs, for faith in you will make us strong. And all our fate and all our fears we have undergone throughout the years will disappear like bad dreams do, for one fine day we'll be with you. Whenever I hear this song very often. It's a very hope-giving song. And all our fears and all our, all what we have undergone throughout the years will disappear like bad dreams do. For one fine day we'll be with you. Because Brahma will not come with a swan carrier, but Lord Vishnu's Vaikuntha airline, Garuda Vahan, then it's Garuda Airlines. It's not Lufthansa Airlines any longer. Right? Garuda Airlines come down with the Vishnudutas And when all the struggles and all the fears and all the difficulties and everything in this short span of 40, 50, 60, 80, as many years that we have undergone, the exhilarating experience of it all will be the day when the Garuda carrier comes, to take us back home, back to Godhead. I know what an experience that will be. A demon like Hiranyakashipu is exhilarated seeing Brahma on the swan carrier, and what to speak of a devotee when he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead come to take us back to the spiritual world. This purport, Srila Prabhupada is focusing on the worship of the demigods. How a demigod worshipper wants to go to demigod to fulfill his desires. In the 7th chapter of the Gita, Lord Krishna, in 4 or 5 verses, a series of verses, explains the nature of the worship of the demigods. Here we find Hiranyakashipu has gone to Lord Brahma, is worshipping Lord Brahma with only one thing in his mind. He has material desires. He wants to become immortal. He wants to be powerful. He wants control. He wants that no one should be able to kill him. This is his desire within his heart. And therefore, Lord Krishna says, Kama istaiste ritagyana. Anyone whose heart is absolutely overwhelmed by kama, material desires, such person approach the demigods. Why? Kshipram hi manushe loke. Very quickly, the demigods will fulfill their desires. If you give the demigod what you're supposed to give them, fine. Lord Shiva, give him a bael leaf, or a bael fruit. You don't even need a bell, but without a bell, you give some bael, and your desires are fulfilled. You go to Ganesha, you do something, your desires are fulfilled. In fact, in India, a lot of people in India, they chant this verses for Lord Ganesh, Atharva Shirsha. And when they chant this Atharva Shirsha, there is this verse there which says, those who want money will get money, those who want children will get children, those who want education will get education, Vidyarthi labate vidyam, dhanarthi labate dhanam, putrarthi labate putram. And how? Shadbhir mase phalam labhet. Shadbhir mase. Only 6 months. You just worship for 6 months and chant these verses for 6 months. Shadbhir mase phalam labhet. You get the phala, the fruit of your worship. What fruit do you want? If you're dhanarthi, the fruit is dhana, wealth. If you're putrarthi, the fruit is putra, child. If you're vidyarthi, a student, the fruit is vidya, education, knowledge. Take it. And therefore, people whose desires are overwhelmed with desires, whose hearts are overwhelmed with desires, they approach the demigods to get their desires fulfilled, because kshipram, very quickly, the demigods can fulfill the desires. Srila Prabhupada was walking with his disciples once on a morning walk, and he saw a statue, and at the bottom of the statue was written Webster. So Srila Prabhupada said, go and see who this Mr. Webster is. Is he the same gentleman who, was the origin and the source of the Webster's dictionary? Go and ask, go and see which Webster is this. So the devotees went close by, and they saw the name written there was Daniel Webster. So they came back and told Srila Prabhupada, it's not that Webster, Prabhupada, it is some Daniel Webster. And Srila Prabhupada started saying, Daniel has come, Daniel has come, Daniel has come. And the devotees were bewildered. I mean, they were quite astonished. What is Prabhupada saying? Seeing Daniel Webster. Now Prabhupada is saying, Daniel has come, Daniel has come, Daniel has come. So the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what does that mean? Daniel has come, Daniel has come. Srila Prabhupada said, when I was studying in Kolkata, at Scottish Churches College, we studied Shakespeare's works. And one of the famous works of Shakespeare was Merchant of Venice. And he said, I was very, very fascinated by the story, Merchant of Venice. And Srila Prabhupada said, I read the whole story, and I really liked it. And Srila Prabhupada started telling the whole story to the devotees. Prabhupada summarized the whole novel, Merchant of Venice, just in a couple of minutes to the devotees. And the climax of the whole novel, one of the last lines was, Daniel has come. I just read the story, so I don't know if it's the Daniel has come, Daniel has come, Daniel has come. And after telling the story, Srila Prabhupada then told the devotees, you know what the lesson of the story is? He said Daniel was one of the main characters of the story. He said, and he had such desires in his heart. He had certain cherished objects that he wanted to achieve in his life. But try as hard as he did, he just could not get his desires fulfilled. And then Srila Prabhupada said, this is the material world. Try as hard as you may on your own, or approach demigods, or go anywhere to fulfill the material desires. It's not that all our desires can be fulfilled. And therefore here we find Hiranyakashipu being driven by this desire to control and become immortal, is trying to be immortal by getting benedictions from Lord Brahma. Little does he know that this world does not afford such a facility. Badri Narayan Prabhu always tells this story. It's his favorite story. He says a reporter came and asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, what is the death rate in this world? Prabhupada said 100%. He was expecting what is the death rate in the world, something like 50%, 80% in this country. He said, death rate in this world, 100%, Srila Prabhupada said. Little did Hiranyakashipu know that no matter how hard he would try to fulfill his desires by getting these blessings from Lord Brahma, he would just not be able to do it. Contrasting Hiranyakashipu with Prahlad, Prahlad on the other hand had no desire to control. He had no desire to lord it over. He had no material desires. He simply wanted to love the Lord. He simply wanted to serve the Lord. He simply wanted to remember the Lord. In fact, his very name indicates that. Prahlad, Ahlad means that which gives joy. Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti, Srimati Radharani, one who gives pleasure to Krishna. A lot of times devotees pronounce it as Alladini Shakti. It's Ladini, but devotees pronounce it as Alladini Shakti. And one of our brahmacharis in Bombay was saying that name is also true actually, that pronunciation. One who gives pleasure to Allah, Alladini, is Alladini Shakti. He was saying, because Krishna is the same Lord Allah. Alladini, one who gives pleasure to Lord Allah is Alladini. But the very name Prahlad, Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Jai, Gaur Nitai ki Jai, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki Jai. The very name Prahlad means one who gives pleasure. Ahlad. One who gives prakrishta rupena ahlad. Complete pleasure. Wants to simply please is called Prahlad. And Prahlad, he simply wanted to please the Lord. He didn't want anything from the Lord, unlike his father, who wanted something from Brahma. And the evidence that Prahlad didn't want anything came from the fact that so many atrocities came upon him, so many troubles. He was to be killed by Hiranyakashipu and his men. But Prahlad did not change his faith. He did not become an atheist, saying, hey, I was worshipping the Lord, and look what the Lord has done unto me. He did not go to any other demigod saying, Krishna has not done, let me see if someone else does my work. Someone else protects me. He did not go to any Baba thinking, oh, the Lord is not protecting me. I have remembered him. I have surrendered to him. What is he doing for me? The proof of the fact that Prahlad loved the Lord and he didn't want anything was that in spite of going through so much, he did not change his loyalty. And that is one of the proof of love. That someone who loves the Lord, no matter what happens, he doesn't change his loyalty, doesn't change his camp and goes to some other camp to say, oh, the Lord doesn't do it for me, let me go elsewhere and see if he can do it for me. What else was the proof of Prahlad's love? The proof was he did not ask for anything when the Lord came in front of him. Lord Narasimhadev appeared, Prahlad loved him, he simply wanted to serve him. When Lord Narasimhadev appeared, Prahlad did not ask anything for himself, except for service and to be in the association of devotees. And that is a symptom that Prahlad actually loved the Supreme Lord and had no material desires to be fulfilled in his heart. Recently, one senior devotee was telling a story of from the Ramayana. He was saying that when Lakshman was with Sitaram in the forest, it is explained that Lakshman did not sleep a wink for 14 full years. it is explained that in the creation of Lord Brahma, there are many kinds of lotus flowers. Some lotus flowers blossom at sunrise and they wither away and close at sunset. Some blossom at sunset and they close at sunrise. In the creation of Lord Brahma, there has not been a lotus flower that blossoms for 24 hours a day. Not one lotus flower in the world. What to speak of the world, the creation of Brahma. There is no such lotus flower that blossoms for all 24 hours. What to speak of 24 into 14 years. But there are two lotus flowers that kept blossoming 24 hours for 14 full years. And those are the two lotus eyes of Lakshmanji. They never closed. These lotus eyes always remained open for 24 hours, 14 years, till Lord Ram and Sita were in exile. And he didn't bother. When King Guha, Lord Ram was passing through Chitrakoot, King Guha saw Lakshmana is all night long awake. He thought, this brother has some wicked plans. Probably he wants to murder Ram and take the throne of Ayodhya. So Guha was also on a vigil all night long. Both loved Ram so much, both were suspicious of each other. Guha thought Lakshman wants to do something to Ram, and Lakshman thought Guha wants to do something to Lord Ram, and both were moving around all night long. And then they bumped into each other at a point of time. And Guha asked, hey, what are you doing at this point of time? No, I'm just walking. I'm not getting sleep tonight. Just walking around. And they kept making excuses. But both were suspicious. Such is the nature of love for the Lord. That even in love there is suspicion that maybe the service to the Lord should not be affected. Later, once when Sita Ram were sitting, 7 years of exile were over. And when Sita Ram was sitting in the night talking, Lakshman was going around keeping a vigil, to see that nothing affects love Sita Ram. No one should cause any harm to Sita Ram. And also, he got the benefit of doing pradakshina, parikrama, to Sita Ram for 14 years. Every day, he was going around Sita Ram. As he was walking, suddenly, an elderly lady walked there, right on his path. He said, move aside. I have to go around and protect Sita Ram. He said, by the way, who are you? She said, I am Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep personified. You haven't slept a wink for 7 full years. I have come here to offer you this one prospect. Rest for a while. I will guard Sita and Ram. You do not worry about that. I am so much pleased by your service to Sita Ram. I have come here to offer this blessing. Rest for a while. I shall take care of the service. He said, no, I won't do that. He said, 7. She said, 7 years you haven't slept. You're so exhausted, so fatigued. He said, exhaustion? Fatigue? Anyone who's seeing Sita Ram constantly, where is exhaustion? I'm not exhausted. I'm not fatigued. She said, okay, don't rest. You walk with your eyes open. Do your service. All I'll do is I'll pull the veil of my sari and hold it above your head as you're walking, and that should take care of your exhaustion. I mean, a lot of us would expect and hope that Nidra Devi holds her veil and says, you go on with your service and exhaustion will all be gone. Lovely, He said, no, I'm not exhausted. In service to the Lord, where is exhaustion? I'm not exhausted. You go away. He said, please, I've come here soliciting some service to you. Please. He said, okay, you want to serve me? Do one thing. My wife Urmila in Ayodhya, even she hasn't slept a wink for last 7 years. I haven't slept, she hasn't slept. So you go to her and you give her some rest. Because at least for me there is Lord Ram to see. For her, there is no Lord Ram and there is no Lakshman. Both are not there. So you go there and you give her some rest. So Nidra Devi said, fine. Meanwhile, Sita and Ram were hearing this conversation. So Sita Ram felt really bad. Sita had tears in her eyes. She said, for us, both of us are together here. But in order to serve us, Lakshman and Urmila are separated, She's alone there and you are with us here. Lakshman is with us here to serve. Plus, at least for Lakshman we are there. For Urmila, There is no one, literally. So let us go to Ayodhya and give Urmila our darshan. So Sitaram, they decided to expand. They were there, but they also decided to expand in their forms and go to Ayodhya to give darshan to Urmila. So when they came to Urmila, Urmila was exhilarated, happy, joyful, beyond herself in joy, besides herself in joy. She was very gratified to see the beautiful form of Sitaram. And then later, as Lord Ram left back to the forest, their expansions of course, Nidra Devi arrived there. She was a little late. First Sitaram had arrived, then Nidra Devi came there. And she said, your husband Lakshman has sent me to you. He has made this proposal that, you haven't slept for 7 years, you kindly rest for a while. She said, no, why rest? Said, I have a complaint. So why do you do these things? You went to Lakshman, and two problems, You went to Lakshman there to give him some sleep, but you disturbed my husband's service. And because you disturbed my husband's service, he was going on. He didn't want to sleep. He had to think of me. Imagine Urmila's service attitude to Lord Ram. She is saying that simply because you went to Lakshman, he was only thinking of Sita and Ram, and now he's thinking of me. You disturbed his service to the Lord, and therefore he had to think of me. Not just that, because you did this, Sita Ram had to come all the way from Ayodhya to give me darshan here. So please do not go do this again. For the next 7 years, don't disturb my husband and don't disturb me. I'm very happy remembering my husband, serving my husband in my mind, and very soon we will all be united. Don't worry, don't disturb anyone there. Right. Let him continue with his service, let me continue with my service. It's incredible how a devotee of the Lord does not want anything else but service. Unlike a person who worships the demigods, who has desires to fulfill, a devotee of the Lord has no desire except to serve the Lord. Srila Prabhupada on 5th of April 1976 was in Vrindavan, Krishna Balram temple. And there was a lot of talk going on about the Punjab National Bank being established within the Krishna Balram campus. And finally on the 5th of April 1976, the Punjab National Bank was about to be inaugurated. So the manager requested Bhagatji, who was his friend, to invite Srila Prabhupada for the inauguration in the morning. So Srila Prabhupada came to the PNB, Punjab National Bank, to inaugurate the bank. And it was a very, very pleasant exchange between the manager and Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees present there. And Srila Prabhupada was in a very, very jovial mood, very humorous, jovial mood, very light mood. And as soon as Srila Prabhupada came there to the bank, Srila Prabhupada said, Dhruva Maharaj, he was a great devotee of the Lord. And because he was such a great devotee, Kubera, the treasurer of all demigods, approached Dhruva and said, my dear Dhruva, what do you want? I am ready to give you anything. And Dhruva said, I do not want anything. I simply want the association of devotees. I simply want service to the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada said, Kubera, the treasurer of demigods, has come to offer money, wealth to a devotee. And devotee says, well, I only want service to the Lord. I do not want anything. And Prabhupada writes in a place, he says, that's why Kubera comes to devotees. Because when Kubera comes and says, what do you want? He knows devotees will not ask anything. If he goes to someone else, they're going to say, okay, empty your treasury in my house and you can become a bankrupt, no problem. So Kubera has no, problems with devotees. He knows. Of course, with Hare Krishna devotees, he might have some trouble because he knows that Hare Krishna devotees ask a lot. Like our Pranabandhu Prabhu says, chanting, dancing and financing. The Hare Krishna devotees want a lot of funds. Of course, Kubera will be happy with the Hare Krishna devotees because they don't use anything for themselves. They use everything for Krishna's service. So Kubera will be happy to empty his treasury here. But Prabhupada said to this manager of the Punjab National Bank that Dhruva was asked by Kubera, what do you want? And Dhruva said, I don't want anything. I simply want service and blessings of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada said, just like Dhruva, Even all of us here, Kuvera came to Dhruva to give money to him, and you, the Punjab National Bank, has come to Krishna Balram temple to give money to us. Prabhupada said, and the manager was getting a little scared. What is Prabhupada up to, And then Prabhupada said, but just like Dhruva, he did not ask anything from Kuvera. We know that you are ready to give us a lot of money, but we will not ask anything from you. And just like Dhruva, he asked for blessings for Krishna's service alone. We are requesting you, Prabhupada saying to this manager, we are requesting you that you bless all of us, that we can simply be engaged in the service of Krishna Balaram properly. And the manager was kind of saying, Swamiji is asking my blessing. In India, it's very uncommon, Here, if you go and ask someone blessings, firstly they'll ask, what are you asking for? But even they might say, oh, may the Lord Almighty bless you. They might even say, because they don't know what this is. But in India, for an Indian man to bless a sannyasi, then this man, he started, laughing and speaking many things. He said, Swamiji, you please bless us that we can manage these funds properly in service to the Lord, this bank properly in service to the Lord. And then he started cracking a joke. And he told Srila Prabhupada that, a person was to go for a surgery. So the surgeon asked, what were you in your life? He said, were you a general? Were you a businessman? Were you a banker? What were you? He said, well, I was a businessman. He said, then I can perform surgery on you. He said, why is that so? He said, for a general, he has a heart. For a businessman, he has a heart. For a banker, he has not ever used his heart, so there's no question of any surgery. So he was cracking a joke on himself. A banker has never used his heart in giving loans properly, so there's no need of surgery. And then Srila Prabhupada started laughing, and he wanted to crack a joke. And in cracking a joke, Prabhupada was moving his shoulders, and his body was literally shaking and moving. Even before he could say his things, he was laughing. And Srila Prabhupada said, I heard this in my childhood, that a very poor man, he heard from his friend that money draws money. Money attracts money. So this poor man took his little coin and went to a bank. And the cashier was counting the money. So the poor man went and put his coin on the cash that he was counting and stood there. So the cashier said, hey, what happened? He said, well, I'm looking for money back. He said, how are you looking for money? He said, I put a coin on on all the money you're counting, so I'm looking for more money. He said, how is that? He said, because I heard that money attracts money. So then Prabhupada started laughing even more. And Prabhupada said, yes. The cashier spoke back to him, yes, money attracts money. My money has attracted your money now. And Prabhupada started laughing like anything. And after a lot of pleasantries that were exchanged between the manager of the Punjab National Bank and Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada left and really kept the manager very happy. The manager was really happy with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada made a very powerful point here though, that the demigods like Kubera are willing to offer this to Dhruva for the simple reason that a devotee of the Lord like Dhruva does not use it, for anything else except devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. In any case, I think 8:30 the class stops, right? Yeah. Here in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing on the difference between a devotee of the Lord and a demigod worshipper. We find Hiranyakashipu here, his heart ridden with material desires, in particular wanting to be immortal, has worshipped Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma has come here now to bless him with his fulfillment of his desires. And contrasting Hiranyakashipu with Prahlad Maharaj, we find how Prahlad, being a devotee of the Lord, his heart is only wanting to love, wanting to serve the Supreme Lord. And no matter what is asked of him, Prahlad does not want anything in return. He simply wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and remain in the association of devotees. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any comments or questions? जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.